check, you can tell me none. Boss mode in effect, and my money long. If you ain't talking money, don't talk to me. I be over here. Music.
Hello, everybody. It shows that we are on live on Get Haunted too, so we're good to go. Welcome to episode 34 of Paranormal Addicts podcast. As you know, I am your handsome host, Kent. My guest today is the man, the myth, the legend, Damian. So, Damian, let's start out and just introduce yourself to everybody, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, my man. Hi, my name's Damian. I'm a paranormal investigator and a living, walking Ouija board.
So, let's start out and talk about one of the newest revelations that with you and with Get Haunted, and that's the Get Haunted International. Tell us how that came about and what that means. I mean, I'm excited. You're already part of the family, so now it's just way international. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it all started, I don't know, maybe two and a half years ago when I first came across Get Haunted with Rob and Sarah, and Agent Rob, love him. Sarah, love her too. Called me an android and called me out, and basically a few years later I'm now sitting with you guys quizzing you, and you're quizzing me, and it's just grown since then. But as I say, a good magician doesn't show his secrets. So if you want to know all the ins and outs, then jump on to Get Haunted Paranormally Blonde on Patreon, and you can get all the gossip there.
I mean, like you said, I'm excited and honored to be part of the Get Haunted family. I've talked about it here on the show before, and I know I've talked with you. I had to take 3 years off from investigating, to recover from my brain surgery and my spine surgery, and so when I got back to doing what I love and my passion, and I feel this is what I'm called to do. I feel paranormal investigation is my gift. That's the gift that I was given, So so when I got back to doing that, Rob and Sarah, they gave me the platform to do the podcast, and they helped me find my voice again. So I always love them. I can't say enough good stuff about them. So.
Oh, I definitely know where you're coming from, man. But can I ask you a question before you get started on me?
Yeah.
Did your abilities start then from a very young age, or did they improve once you had the surgery, or was there a difference between before and after?
So, I was born, with the ability to see and communicate with it. I can't remember a time when I couldn't. My first memory, my first clear memory, I was 6 years old. But I never really thought about the before and after the surgery until I had another guest ask me about it. And once they asked me about it, and I start looking back, my abilities became more prominent and clearer. So definitely more prominent. And like as soon as I go to a location now, I get it like intuition or whatever word you want to use. I know what we need to do. As soon as we get there now. So yeah.
Yeah. So you basically run on instinct.
Yep.
You feel the vibes, you feel the street, you feel the area, you feel the energy, and you just read
Yep.
what it's telling. Go from there. That's really cool, man. Really cool. I mean, I had to improve my abilities and go with the arms to really feel the potential out, if you know what I mean.
Hello, Rob and Dana.
Agent Rob, love him.
And Denise is with us. Hey, Denise. So
Hey, Denise.
let's just start out like we always do with our icebreaker questions, Damian. So the first icebreaker question. I mean, you've seen the show. You've seen that show enough. You know how this goes. So the first icebreaker question is, what is the favorite location you've investigated, and what is your bucket list location that you want to investigate?
That is really hard, and I've been panicking about this one every time I watch your show, and I've got a different answer every single week. So, favourite location I would say is Craigmillar Castle because it's 10 minutes away, very local, very handy. Built in the 1400s, about I'd say about 400 or 500 meters from the location. There's a monolithic stone as well, which is from around about the pyramids era. Done Edinburgh Castle, Off Road Bridge. Oh, there's many locations I've done that, but I'd probably say the Slinky going down the stairs. But unfortunately, that location was destroyed. It was demolished. But I would love to have the chance to go back to that residence. But my bucket list location is, I'd rather actually have a raffle and see where the public send me. Because, like yourself, my arms work differently to how you perceive things. So
Right.
I've not really been scared yet out of anywhere apart from underground. Not fond of that. But when you go in caves and things, there's only one way in and one way out. But bucket list, probably Chinese Emperor's first dynasty that they've not even opened yet.
So the next icebreaker question, I'm not even going to ask, but I'm just going to let you explain a little bit. The second icebreaker question is always, what is your favorite piece of equipment? Obviously, we know with you it's the Ouija board. So so why don't you explain to everybody how you use the Ouija board in investigations and how that became your go-to piece of equipment?
Well, originally started off with, I can't actually see it at the moment, it's not near me, with a normal Ouija board, as you would with the normal planchette. That one was actually quite successful over the years I used it. But let's see, I've just got everything next to me just in case anybody asks me anything, but I would say the pendulum, because it's not electrically charged by anything other than human body.
I'm actually learning how to use a pendulum because obviously with my energy, that's a good tool for me. But I want to make sure I'm using it the correct way before I actually introduce it into an investigation.
Yeah, a lot of the times I actually thought I was influencing the results, but when I got if I show everybody, they'll understand, because you can't really use a pendulum at the same time as holding your arms out like this. So I've actually got a metal cage that goes over my arms and sits like a cradle, and then in the middle is my pendulum, which hangs over the arms, and it swings on its own. So I'm not physically touching it. There's no interaction from me other than it tangling over my arms and it swings.
So what do you say to the people that say the Ouija board is like evil, or it's a tool that shouldn't be used? What's your response to that?
I'd say that anything can be used as a weapon. You put a spoon in a prison and before you know it, you've got a shank. So you could even use a ballpoint pen. It all comes down to who's using it and what you're using it for. I would determine whether or not it can be dangerous. But so far, everything, touch wood, has been great with me, apart from dreams. They're not mine anymore, so small sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this discussion before, and and I've gave my opinion before. My opinion, nothing really. I don't think there's anything that's really evil or good. It's just equipment. It's how you use it. It's how. So my thing with any equipment, I'll tell everybody, the first thing you have to realize is none of the equipment we have, whether it's the old school Ouija board, pendulum, dowsing rods, or the new SLS, Ovilus, none of the tools we have were originally designed for paranormal investigating.
No,
they were adapted by somebody smarter than I am, and and so when we introduce a new tool into my toolbox or whatever, I tell everybody you have to learn how to use the tool properly. You have to learn the positive, the negatives, whether it gives off false positives, weaknesses, strengths. You have to know all that before you can even put it in your tool set. So me personally, I test everything for 3 investigations before I make a decision whether it goes into my toolkit or not. But as far as being evil, my first experience with a Ouija board, I was 13, and and I didn't have anything evil happen to me. So as long as it's used properly and you know what you're doing, which obviously I don't see a problem with it. Anybody that does is just they listen to fairy tales and urban legends instead of operating with fact.
Yeah. Well, so far I've not found the demon Zozo, so I can chalk that one down to a myth. He's not jumped out my arms yet, that's for sure.
All right, let's talk about. This is a question I ask every episode, Damian, so you should have known it was coming. How do you think the para-pop culture has affected the field, both positively and negatively?
Positively, yes, I would say it has. I reckon it's drawn a lot of areas to attention that were probably went unnoticed. You also get to see the equipment in the field and how it's used and how it interacts with the surrounding areas. So you can get a good idea on a lot of things just by watching other investigators and how they perform and what interactions they get and whether or not you can adapt that into how you do an investigation. But it can also have a negative side of things where they then start talking everything's a demon, everything's dark. It's just it can. I mean, I can understand why they do it because a lot of them are entertainers, and that is what they are actually doing is entertaining their group that they're advertising to. But like I say, it can cause a lot of damage to businesses and things that are labeled with something that it isn't.
I pretty well agree with you. I mean, I can't really add a whole lot to that. I mean, my only personal experience, and I've shared it with you, and I've shared it with our viewers. Growing up, I grew up not only in like the Bible Belt of America, but I grew up in like the heart of the Bible Belt. There's more churches per capita in my hometown than there is anything else. So, so growing up with my abilities, I used to always get, oh, you must worship the devil, or you're going to hell, and all this stuff. So with the TV shows, especially like Ghost Hunters, the early shows, at least it opened up the conversation more. So now I still get some of the you must worship the devil, but now I also get some of the, oh, you mean like Ghost Hunters. So at least it opens up that conversation. That's really why the Paracon that I plan every year down here, that's why I do it. It's just to educate people about the field. It's not all dark. We do have a certain percentage, especially on YouTube, and I'm not saying all YouTubers are bad. There's some good ones out there. Paranormal Theory is good. Seeking Ghosts with A&L is good. There's some good ones out there, but there's a lot of ghosts. There's a lot of the people on YouTube. They just want to yell, "It's a demon" all the time to get the likes. That's all they care about.
That is true.
And that used to bother me a lot, but Sarah actually explained. She had the best explanation I've ever heard when she was on the show, and the people that turn into those YouTubers are not going to be the same ones that tune into like me and you and the legitimate ones. They fill a void, so but they don't really affect us that much because the people who tune into that are just tuning in to be entertained. They're not actually tuning in to see what it's really like.
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, in Britain, I think it was 97, there was a program released on TV called Ghost Watch. It was for a Halloween special, and the whole country had a meltdown over this one program. I mean, it was all staged, everything. It was all acted out, but whoever did it, they wouldn't get away with it today, put it that way, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, a lot has changed since then. Information is more readily available as well. It's great.
Yeah, because like the first book, so I started really like investigating. I say I've been doing it since '92 because that's when I became legal age and I could go do what I wanted to. But I really started investigating. I really started investigating like in the middle school, and I would always check out. I'm laughing at Rob.
So am I.
He's bringing in the Spice Girls of the paranormal world, I guess. I guess he's going to be Scary Spice. I don't know, but so I started checking out.
I think that's labeled as Scary Spice.
So I started checking out. Books, from the library, and like for some reason that put me on like a watch list. The first book I ever read was one by the Warrens, and I checked it out, and I got called to the principal's office. So yeah.
At least you had access to the books. They were banned from us. We had to go to the National Library.
So Jason says your crowd will gravitate to you. Just keep doing your thing. Progressive thinking is a great for the field. Stay open-minded and stay worried. Curiosity over fear. I think that's a good point. And on that point, as you know, Damian, because we discussed this last week before, whenever it was, my team actually has an opportunity to do a couple of episodes on a TV show. And originally I wasn't going to do it because there's so much bullshit out there, so much fake, whatever you want to put it. So I didn't want to be part of that. But then I got to thinking, there is so much fake out there. It'd be nice to have some real stuff out there. So we're actually going to film 2 episodes of History Highways in 2025. Yeah. So I'm excited about that.
I'm excited as well because that is amazing. You're actually doing that, and it is a really good face and a really good person to put in that field. Couldn't have thought of anyone better.
So, next question.
I'm trying to get brownie points so you go easy on the questions.
Next question. This is actually my Chris question, but he's not with us right now. But how do you feel? Why do you feel there's so much drama in the paranormal field right now? What do you think causes all the drama? I mean, personally, I try to stay away from the drama, but I mean, we know what's out there, unfortunately.
I would say a lot of it comes down to ego and money. That seems to be the driving force. But I wouldn't just say it's just the paranormal field. I would say it's across the board in all departments. If your face fits, then great. And if it doesn't, then somebody's always going to have a bad thing to say. Doesn't matter where you turn. I originally thought I'd get chased off and with pitchforks and hunted down in the streets as soon as I got my arms done. So, it took 10 years of planning just to find the tattoo artist to even find to do the work. It was quite troublesome.
Then people will see how things are done differently. So, I don't think Rob likes this question because he said, and people ordering that, go ahead by talking about it. I'm not talking about the drama because I'm not going to talk about the drama. I'm not giving them 2 minutes of my podcast to mention them. The reason I asked this question, and you answered it very well, Damian. The reason I asked this question is because I think it's important to discuss why it's out there, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The most misquoted verse of the Bible is the love of money is the root of all evil. That's not actually what the Bible says. The actual verse says the lust for money is the root for evil. So I think that's why we have some of the drama, because some people mistakenly get into this to make money. I lose money every year. I'm going to be honest with you. Hopefully next year changes that, since I'm doing the paranormal planning and all that stuff. But, so that's part of it. The lust of money. And then the other part is, like you said, ego. For some reason, and I don't really know why, but for some reason, some of the OG investigators, and I'm considered one of the OG. Matter of fact, Chris's nickname for me, since I've been investigating for 32 years now. But I don't fall in this category. But some of the old time investigators, for some reason, they're worried about their place in line. It shouldn't be about that. It should be about helping other people, training the new people. I personally, I say this all the time. I say this all the time. My goal is to leave the paranormal field better than it was when I got in it. That's my goal. And to me, that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be about your place in line. It shouldn't be about making money. I mean, if that's your reason for being here, you need to go do a reality show or something, not be in the paranormal field.
Yeah. I mean, you can spend 8 hours and get absolutely nothing. I mean, there's many a times I've done that, even weeks at an end where there's absolutely nothing. Even for me, there's nothing. So, I mean, you could sit there, and it just takes that one event, and that could be it. But that for me is enough. As long as I can understand the story that they're trying to tell me, that's the basis what I go on, because they've all got stories to tell.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, especially my team, Ken 10 Paranormal, we're a relatively large team for the field. We actually have 17 active people.
Wow.
On our team. That doesn't mean that they go on every investigation, but that means they're there. They attend our monthly meetings. If we're going to a big location, they're there. So anyway, but with that being said, you can't just say, I'm going to join Ken 10 Paranormal. There's steps to it. First step is you have to, we do like an interview with me and one of my team leads. And then after we do an interview, we actually do orientation. And part of the orientation, I tell people, I was like, the paranormal field is kind of like fishing. You may be there for 8, 9, 10 hours and not get anything. But when you get something, it makes it worthwhile. So I agree with that.
But as soon as you get a bit of information, it's where did that information come from? How did that information come through? What was causing the information and what reacted with the information? If you know what I mean, it's all about triggers. I find, but a lot of people don't take the time to listen to the stories being told, and they jump on the first bandwagon, and before you know it, you've got a YouTube sensation.
Well, I'll show you. This is the example about how much I don't care about being a celebrity or being anything. I forget to post my investigations to YouTube half the time. Because that's not what I'm there for. Especially if it's a residential. Especially if it's a residential investigation. Because if it's residential, we're there to help the family. So you shouldn't be worried about Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, anything. You should just be worried about helping the family. Hey, Chris.
Hey.
So
we thought he'd been abducted by the drones.
Yeah.
I've got a sign in the garden.
Got him.
I've got a sign in my garden. Instead of Santa's, please stop here, I've got a sign, aliens land here.
We're not gonna let Rob to talk anymore, I think. So let's go ahead and do one of the lightning rounds to get it out of the way, Damian. So the first lightning round, we're just going to discuss the different kinds of activity. As you know, I don't like using the word haunted because everybody looks at it so negative. So let's talk about the different kinds of activity and get your take on it. You know how this works, Damian. You've seen the show. So
yeah, go for it.
The first kind we're going to go with is let's go with a residual haunting. What do you think about a residual haunting?
Well, up until I think it was about maybe 3 weeks ago, I actually thought it was just the same moment replayed over and over again under some conditions. But it was actually Sarah that actually says, I mean, love her to bits. She says maybe it's not a residual and it's an actual intelligence, but they're not aware that we're there. So then it kind of that changed my perspective massively.
So the next, yeah, I had a guest. We had a guest. It's been a while now. They actually brought up the thing that for whatever reason, we're it gets said, we get taught, however you want to put it, that residual is your most common kind of haunting.
Mm.
But her point was, and I've been investigating this way because I like her point and I agree with it. So her point was that actually intelligent hauntings are probably your most common because in intelligent haunting we can actually interact with.
Yeah.
A residual we can't. So how do we know it's actually anything? So that brings us to the next kind of haunting. What do you think about residual? I'm sorry. What do you think about intelligent hauntings?
I think that some of it might not be intelligent. I think a lot of it is mistaken as well for residual, where they're just going about their own lives in that same sequence, and we're just witnessing a brief moment of that time. So again, I think it's still a 50-50. It's hard to differentiate between the two now, I think, until you actually physically get answers back or actions to your questions or to your equipment. I don't think you can actually class it as intelligent until you've actually got evidence to back that up, I think. But if there is an intelligence,
okay, we lost this for a minute, but we're back.
Okay, well, and also if they are intelligent, I would love them to tell me this week's winning lottery numbers.
So poltergeist, our next one would be how about a malicious spirit? And your malicious spirit is different than demonic. So let's just talk about malicious spirits right now. How do you feel about a malicious spirit?
You tear down a wall in a house that they've lived in for years and years and years, they're going to get upset. Could be just an action that you do that causes them to upset. You could be a smoker in a house and they're a non-smoker. You could be religious and they're not, or vice versa. I mean, it could be any number of factors. There's a reason why. The thing with that is I would try and get to the bottom of it and understand why and coexist. Because I mean, there's Denise. And Ernie will tell you that they live happily with their residents, and there's no conflict between them. So I think it all comes down to the mentality of the person and how it's perceived.
So me and Robert, Robert Murphy was my guest last week, and me and Robert actually talked about my team and their team teaming up and going to visit Denise and Ernie and experience their activity down there. So that I look forward to that happening in the future. So, when it comes to like malicious spirits, I say all the time, people have to realize if somebody was like a dickhead when they were alive, they're going to be a dickhead when they're a spirit. So, so they could just be angry. They could be looking for something. They could just be in a bad mood.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people actually ask the spirits and everything, how did you die? How would you know if you were dead? Unless you were actually physically, like, say, tortured or something and you knew you were going to die. I mean, if somebody just went to sleep and didn't wake up, would they know they were dead? So when people are saying, how did you die? It's like, well, I don't know. Am I dead?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, that's a whole different question that I was going to get to after this one. So let's finish the lightning round, then we'll get to that one. But that's actually going to be my next question. So, all right. So that brings us to demonic hauntings. What do you think about a
Here we
demonic
go.
haunting?
Here we go.
I'm not possessed yet, so I think maybe a lot of people say that it's like 1% of hauntings. I actually think it's a lot less. I would say it's 0.001%. It does happen, but not to me yet. There must be certain circumstances happen.
So a demonic haunting would be it was never human to begin with. So I don't deny there's a possibility of it, but if there is, you're talking about the minority, less than 1%. So Robert's dog's possessed. So moving on to the next question. So do you think ghosts know the spirits know they're dead? Do you think if there's more than one spirit at a location, do you think they communicate with each other? What do you think? What do you think they know, and what do you think they don't know?
It depends on what they see and what we see. They seem to be able to see everything that we see and more. So I think it's just a transfer of information, and they've just got access to all the information that's in front of them. So, I mean, if you get a piece of paper and burn it, there's nothing left but ash. But if you get the ash, the smoke, the heat, the fire, put it all together, you've got another piece of paper. So it's just a transfer of information. So it's what information are they working on or perceiving?
So that brings me to the next question, actually. So most of the, I'm shaking my head at Rob again. So most of the information that we get, for whatever reason, tends to be in English. So why do you think spirits tend to communicate in English? I mean, I have my own opinion, and I'll give that, but I want to hear yours first.
Well, it's a possibility that they can. I've had questions answered before I've asked the question. So whether or not they're predicting what I'm going to ask, or they've received the information that I've thought before I've spoke it, might mean they work on electrical brain impulse and things, which would then work on various brain chemistries and things. It opens a whole different concept on how the brain works. But they could actually understand the frequency of our brains before we can act on it, because we've got a 30-second delay. So you can do a lot in 30 seconds. For our brains to switch it into reality in real-time mode, it's quite surreal how it works.
So to Denise's point, she said that they've caught some German EVPs at their house. I investigated a seed mill that was built by Yugoslavian POWs, for World War II POWs, and we got some German there too. They actually responded very angrily to the German. But my take is, first thing we have to understand is, spirits operate on a different plane than we do. If the theory has always been that they can manipulate radio waves, etc., to communicate with us. Well, most of the radio waves that we have here are in English. So if they're manipulating radio waves, obviously it's going to be in the language that the radio waves are in.
There's absolutely, yeah. I mean, I do know people that put them in reverse, so it can't actually speak English, and not full words as well, and it still comes out in full sentence in a different language. I mean, a few of mine I've had Latin, but I don't speak Latin, so a lot of the times I have to then go into Google Translate, and by that time you've lost about 5 minutes on your investigation. So a lot of the times you have to check afterwards what they were saying.
So between Rob and being overly medicated, I think I'm losing control of my own show. So, Damian, walk us through an investigation with you. Do you consider yourself like I mean, obviously you're more of an old school investigator because you use, the Ouija board and the pendulum.
Yep.
Or do you consider yourself a scientific or a hybrid? How do you
hybrid?
Just walk us through an investigation with you?
No, I was a hybrid, definitely. You can't go into the field just looking for a ghost when you're a paranormal investigator. It could fall under any field, from UFOs, aliens, trolls, fairies, goblins, Tommyknockers, werewolves, vampires, even. I mean, all you got to do is look back in history. There's no smoke without fire, and Every story comes from somewhere. So either somebody's seen something and it's just been lost with translation or lost with history, and now and again it resurfaces.
So the Bluetooth thing you talk about, like a portal box, is that what you're talking about, Tricia?
Yeah, it'll be the GeoPort. Yeah, the portal box. Yeah. I mean, the only reason I don't have a GeoPort is because money. You can't go out there and rush off and buy every single piece of equipment. I would love to, absolutely love to.
So yeah, so I consider myself a paranormal researcher, and it's like you said, it's because I do a lot more ghost investigations than anything else, but I investigate whatever. I've actually even been on the chupacabra hunt. So I've hunted the chupacabra. I've investigated the dog man. So but yeah, we're definitely a hybrid style investigation. I like to say all the time that we use old school techniques with the new school technology. Because and the reason there's no better tool than ourselves. We're the best tool we got. You got to trust your instincts. I fully agree with that. But like if you're doing like a residential investigation, it's a lot easier to go to the homeowner and be like, this is what I captured on the EVP. This is what I captured on the camera. This is the thermal I captured. It's a lot easier to take that to a homeowner than it is to take, well, I felt this and I sensed that. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. You cut out there, so I only got part of that.
We hope to see you in Kentucky next year, Rob. I mean, you're going to be at the Paracon if nothing else. I mean, you ain't going to no-showing me. I might sick Damian on you if you do that. So
I'll buy a canoe and start paddling.
So I'm actually, as far as investigating, I'm actually on a break until the beginning of the year because there's so much. People's got so much going on in November and December. So, I don't even try to schedule an investigation because, even with 17 people, I might not have anybody show up. So my next investigation next year, I'm actually doing an investigation on my birthday. I'm going to be in Indiana investigating the mysterious Monroe House. So I'm looking forward to that.
That is a good birthday present for yourself.
I'm going to be an antique on my next birthday, I think.
I'm catching you up, my man. Don't worry.
Well, that's okay. As beautiful as Sarah is, I'm actually trying to catch up with her. So I may be old, but I'm not the oldest. She's definitely the most beautiful one, though. So that's okay. Rob, you can definitely come if you want to. It's already paid for. Just show up January 18th, and you can go with me for real. So I know I'm a little bit off today, guys, but I've been sick for like 3 days, so I apologize for that.
You're doing so, man. We love you, Ken. We love you, man.
I love you guys too, and I appreciate that. So let's talk about just the different kinds of equipment. So with me, I like like my home run bingo, whatever you want to call it, is when I can have two pieces of equipment get pretty much the same piece of evidence. So like if I have the voice recorder, get the same evidence as like my Paratech or my Spirit Box. So because it's always good to have that confirmation. So like I don't really know where I was going with that, Damian. I'm sorry. So let's move on to this question. This is a question that's been kind of a hot topic lately in the field. I've seen it. I've actually even asked it on my team's page, and I've seen it asked in a lot of pages. So what is your take on haunted objects. Whether it be a haunted doll or whatever. Do you think objects can be haunted, or what's your take on that, Damian?
I believe that information of the person could transfer into an object if they wished. I think so, yeah. I think there's too much evidence out there from other objects which have activity that can't be disproven. How they transfer the information of themselves into it, I'm not sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I've never, like Sarah says, you can never dismiss anybody's experience. You just can't do that. So, I've
got a few haunted items. One of them was a gold ring with a human tooth embedded into it, which I actually sent away to a haunted museum down south, down in England, to look after it because my family wouldn't let me keep it here because too many things were happening. I've got a rocking chair which occasionally rocks itself, which was kept outside in the shed until my sister moved out, and then I moved it in. And I've got a book as well which has got activity around a K2 meter. Oh, not forgetting my necro crystals, which are actually from a body.
So my best haunted object story, so Joe Frankie was on the show a couple episodes ago, and Joe's part of the Warren legacy and all that stuff. He brought up the point that he don't believe in so much in haunted objects, but he thinks that they can control the object. They can make it move, they can control it, but not necessarily possessing it, because technically to possess it has to be living. So that's an interesting way to put it too. So here's my best haunted object story, Damian. So we were investigating this location in Missouri, and it's a haunted B&B, and so we're there, and there's already activity and stuff. Where the team, the first team that ever investigated, decided it was a good idea to go from Missouri to New York to pick up a haunted doll to bring to this location that's already haunted. So I don't know how intelligent that was. So we get there and we start doing this investigation, and none of my team would investigate this door. So I ended up doing a solo session with the door. So I'm sitting up there, and I set up my geophone. For the people who don't know what a geophone is, they don't even really make them anymore. But a geophone is basically designed to pick up footsteps, vibrations, and that thing, you cannot accidentally set that thing off. It takes a lot to set it off. You have to drop it from like 6 feet to get it to go off. So I set up the geophone next to the rocking chair. I set up my REM pod on the piano, and then I'm using my spirit box and my Paratech VM5 to communicate with it. So the session's going along, and all of a sudden, the geophone and the REM pod still going off simultaneously. Mm-hmm. This is the first time I had ever seen the geophone go off. It's only went off one other time since then, but this was the first time. And so I continue talking to. We're on the Paratech VM5, and for the people who don't know what the Paratech is, it's the same. It's the basic same technology as the Ovilus, but I actually like it a lot better because there's actually 12 settings on it, and it doesn't just randomly shoot out words. I've actually tested it, and it's actually accurate to the investigation. So on the voice recorder and on the Paratech, I capture one of the best EVPs I ever capture, and it says, "I'm behind you." and for whatever reason, like I said, none of my team was with me because I didn't want to go by the door. But for whatever reason, Savannah, who's in the other room, decides she feels led to stand up and take a picture. She don't know what I got on the EVP, and I don't know she's taking a picture. So then when we get ready to rotate, because we rotate every hour and a half. So when we get ready to rotate, we're exchanging information. And she shows me this picture, and there's a shadow figure standing right behind me that looks like about the size of a little kid.
Wow.
And she took it right at the time that I got the eye behind you. So that's one of those things you can't dismiss. You know what I'm saying?
No. Were you sitting down when it came behind you then, or were you standing up?
I'm sorry.
Were you sitting down or standing up when it came behind you?
I was sitting down on the piano bench.
Right. So you were non-threatening and approachable then.
Right. And
Really good.
and the room that the door was kept in is a little like it's not really a room. It's like basically like a hallway, but it's a big hallway where you can have it's got like the piano and the old-fashioned radio, console radio, and the rocking chair, but it's just a walkthrough, you know. So yeah, so there was nothing to give off a force shadow figure, you know, and yeah, because I personally tried to debunk. I don't really like that word. I personally tried to disprove anything before I even show my team or share it with anybody. You know, I always try to debunk it first, and then if I can't debunk it, well, then I might have something.
Yeah. I think that's why my love with the paranormal kicked in, because I've been solo for so long. It wasn't about proving to anybody about what I'd seen. It was proving to myself what I'd seen. And I think that's where my love actually originally came from. Because I wasn't out to prove to anyone. I went out, you know what I mean? It was just a hobby of mine. I kept it quiet for fear of prosecution and chased out of everywhere. So
let's just talk about some of the different newer popular pieces of equipment. I mean, like I said, we know that you like your Ouija board and all that, but so like I said earlier, what people have to realize is the equipment we have now was originally developed for paranormal. For instance, SLS. I know everybody loves SLS right now, and but the SLS was originally a video game system, and not even a good video game system. Somebody. The story goes that they discovered that the Kinects was picking up people walking in when there was nobody there. So somebody's like, well, this would be good to use at a paranormal fair. So somebody tried to use it. I've got a couple of things on the SLS that I can't dismiss, but I've got a lot more that's just this mess. So what do you think about the SLS technology, Damian?
SLS technology I've used, but I use a stick setup with a Gen 1. So that's connected to the laptop, and it sits in the room facing one direction, and it doesn't move from that one direction. So it's not handheld. I'm not carrying it about. There's no infrared getting cast from a causing an infrared shadow, which only the camera can pick up. So I try and eliminate everything as possible. But it's another piece of equipment. It's how much can you carry and how much can you set up. And I mean, you couldn't do the setup out in the field. It wouldn't be waterproof, so it would blow up. I mean, I've got to have my equipment covered in plastic and rubber anyway to stop me blowing it up. So finding equipment that I don't break is top priority for me, which is why I went for the Ouija board and compasses and yo-yos, everything like that. Anything that didn't have power, that I tend to use.
So Rob made the point. I was going to make the point, but he beat me to it. But he said, SLS is supposed to be stationary, like you said, Damian. For whatever reason, you see, especially like on a lot of the YouTube videos, people are carrying them around, but it's actually supposed to be stationary.
Correct,
and it isn't foolproof. It's supposed to find human form. So here's my story. Here's my SLS story. So I have a 1.5 now. And the 1.5, I don't know why it's 1.5 and not 2. I don't know. But the 1.5 is a lot better than the original one. So the original one, it picked up anything. Like, I saw it pick up a pile of clothes as a human figure. So it would pick up anything. So I was investigating this location. It's one of my favorite places to investigate. It's in my hometown. I've actually investigated it a dozen times. So we had a trainee with us, and she was using SLS for whatever reason, and she keeps sending me these pictures in the middle of the investigation. First of all, don't send me stuff in the middle of the investigation. Wait till after the investigation, and then I'll review it. But she's sending it me like constantly. Well, so when I put together, the packet to show to the owner, she's mad because I don't include any of her stuff. Well, 98% of the stuff that she submitted to me was the pole at the end of the staircase. The SLS picked up as a human shape. I'm like, that's not. But the new SLS, so I was investigating this location in eastern Kentucky. We were the first team to investigate it. And so we get there, and, we just start investigating. It's a hotel, but for whatever reason, all the activities in this one room. There's actually been 5 verified murders in this room. I mean, verified by police reports, coroner reports, everything. So for whatever reason, this one room's active. And the wife would never let the husband call anybody to look at it because she didn't want to be tagged as a paranormal place. Well, they're selling it now. So finally, they call somebody in, but they call in my team. And we get there. And let me start out by saying I'm not a big cat ball person, but we set up the cat balls, and we set them up on top of one of the dressers of the hotel, and it's your normal dresser. It's just a long, even, flat thing. And something takes one of the cat balls and just moves one of them, all the way down the chest of drawers.
Wow.
So we try to get it to do it some more. And of course, we're recording on video, audio, everything. And we ask it if it can move it again. And its exact words was, "I can't." And then we asked it. So then we're like, we'll move it to the table. So, it's one of your regular hotel tables, little table, 2 chairs. Yeah. So we move the cat ball to the table, and we're like, "Can you move it down?" And we got, "I'll try." So we keep going, and so then we set up the SLS. We set it down so it's stationary, and so then we're like, "Can you move it?" And it's like, I'm trying. Well, on the SLS, you had what looked like 2 kid-sized stick figures, and you see the hand moving, trying to move the ball. I mean, that's exactly what it looked like, trying to move the ball. So you can't dismiss that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's my best SLS story.
That is good. I haven't caught anything like that.
And I'm.
Oh,
and I'm
lost audio.
Worse as we go along. So, yep, I saw. Are we back?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's end the show with a question we always end at, Damian. What is your best piece of advice? What is your best piece of advice for a new paranormal investigator?
Be true to yourself. Be true to the location, and be true to the spirits. Don't make them out to be anything they're not.
I think that's a good one. All right, we're going to close now. Damian, tell everybody what you got going on, how to get a hold of you, all that fun stuff.
Well, me with technology is not the best of things, so communicating with me is find me on Get Haunted. Definitely find me here on all the shows. I mean, there is groups and that I'm partners in and stuff. So, I mean, if you look for me, you'll find me. But I've only just started up my Whispers of the Ouija paranormal page. So just bear with me, and eventually I'll get there. I'm not as technically minded as you guys. Like I say, if I can find technology that doesn't blow up, then it's a bonus.
And everybody has to remember, if they're trying to get a hold of you, there is a time difference because you're across the ocean over there. So
it's only a 5-hour difference.
So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank Rob and Denise and everybody for joining us. Next week, my guest will be Santiago Carrero. Most people know him more from being an actor than an investigator, but he's actually an investigator, so that should be interesting. And then I'm closing 2025 with I forgot who I'm close with. Yeah. So anyway, tune back next week. I'm sorry, guys. This medication is killing me. But thank you for being on the show, Damian. And I will talk to everybody next week.
Always a pleasure, Chris.
Yep.
We'll get
Chris, you got anything?
No, I don't.
All right. See you guys later.
Yep.